Good morning, everyone. Lots going on as usual. Today is Wednesday, May 28th, 2025. I was going to say Thursday, but it's not Thursday yet. The throne speech was yesterday, and it was just Carney's stump speech. We paid a lot of money for the royals to come, the king and the queen, Camilla, to come and give this speech. And it's, I listened to it while I was walking around. I had it in my ear. I was listening. He talked about red flag and yellow flag laws. Again, it was a lot of content that we've already seen from Carney, but there was a whole bunch of stuff that seemed. He started with a land acknowledgement. It was messy. It wasn't messy. It was just maddening to watch in regular time, like in slow speed. And so I had to pause it. When I originally started watching, I was like, oh, it's live. And then somebody was fiddling or something like that. And so I watched that in real time for a few minutes. And I thought, okay, it's going to be 10 minutes before we start this whole thing. So I went away, came back, started watching live. Well, I watched two times speed until I caught up. And then I watched live. And I was like, this is intolerable. So it was terrible, but also predictable. And nothing really that big bombshell or anything like that. I don't know why the show, right? And I don't know why everybody was excited about it. Everybody's got big claps and people are taking selfies with the royals and stuff. They're trying to have it both ways. And I think it's odd, the whole narrative of Truth and Reconciliation Day. And then, oh, look, here's our sovereign king who, colonized our lands and stuff. Blink, blink, right? Like, it just seems funny to me and not the ha-ha kind. We paid for a show. It was a pantomime, and everybody's, when you listen to the radio and they're saying, oh, big summer session or big concert coming up, and they're pumping it up and they're trying to give tickets away. Right now it's Boots and Hearts, right? The radio station that I listen to is giving away tickets to Boots and Hearts. And they're trying to create buzz around a situation. And that's what the people in our government were doing with the selfies and with the tweets and saying this is a big deal and all the rest of it. I don't care. I don't care about it at all. And they're trying to make us care about it instead of caring about the shambles that our country is in. And I'm not distracted, but a lot of people are, and that's unfortunate. But that's what it's designed for, and that's what they're doing. So we're going to look at the King's speech today. Carney is to sign Canada up to Rearm Europe. So spending is going to increase in defense. We might be spending 5% on NATO and then more on Rearm Europe. But why are we rearming Europe? Seems weird. Are we going to be fighting a big war in the near future? That's a big no for me. I'm not interested in war fighting. Thanks. So are we Athens? Carney says we're Athens, and I think it's a weird analogy, and I'll explain why a little bit later in the show. We've got Blanchette and poilievre responding to the throne speech, so there's lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, I wanted to show you this, and I thought this hits, man. This is one of those things where if you've been delaying something, if you've been thinking to yourself, man, like I can't get started on this thing, do something badly, and then after you've done it badly, come back and examine it as a customer might examine it, or as somebody with a critical eye. And then you look at that, and then when you've done this thing, and then you come back and look at it critically, you can see clearly the bumps, right? And then you can smooth those bumps out, and maybe the next iteration is better, and the next iteration is better. But you can't ride a stationary bicycle, right? You have to do stuff. You have to produce stuff. I started doing Canada Poly on a lark because I used to sit in my garage and just get angry and then go to lunch and yell at my friend. And now I yell at everybody every day. Yay. But it's one of those things where if you do something, hey, who knows, right? Here's this guy. Well, I've never seen this movie or scene. I've never seen this. This is not familiar to me. I just came across this yesterday and I thought, man, this is relevant and motivational and stuff. So here we go.
So what would you say the biggest deception was? What was the biggest lie you were told?
It's not that simple.
Why not?
No, that's the biggest lie I was ever told. It's not that simple. And it's a lie they tell you over and over again.
What's not simple?
Any of it. All of it. It's how they get you to give up. They say it's not that simple, Vinny.
So what's the truth?
That it is. That if you just do the thing that they tell you you can't, then it's done. And you realize it is that simple. That it always was.
Right? Makes you think, doesn't it? Very, very interesting. So yesterday we had the speech from the throne. With that motivational speech out of the way, let's hear this opposite of motivational speech. Honestly, there was fiddling and there was all sorts of, we almost had a playback speed issue there and narrowly avoided. But the beginning of the speech. So at this point, this lady here has passed off and said, over to you, sovereign. And I thought to myself, who bound that book so he couldn't open it, right? And Charles is there with his fingers, and here we go. Oh, it's supposed to be big. Hold on. This bloody book. It's like 10 seconds. You can't open the book. What is going on? Were his fingers swollen or
Honourable
something?
Senators, members of the House of Commons, it is with a deep sense of pride and pleasure that my wife and I join you here today as we witness Canadians coming together in a renewed sense of national pride, unity and hope. I would like to acknowledge that we are gathered on the unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe people.
This should really indicate the direction of this whole WEF-backed speech. This is Carney's stump speech. That's all it is. But he's starting with a land acknowledgement? You are the king of this colony. Land acknowledgement? Weird.
This land acknowledgement is a recognition of shared history as a nation, while continuing to deepen my own understanding. It is my great hope that in each of your communities and collectively as
The whole thing is very, very much like that. And I've got some pieces to highlight. Here is White Rabbit Warrior. He says, I'm not sure that people understand how bad this is. In fact, if this is a decree passed without Parliament, I don't know about a decree being passed. I know the Liberals are trying to pass yellow flag and red flag laws. And red flag laws are such that actually somebody describes what they are here. White Rabbit says the strengthening of red and yellow flag, it's further action on grab and an excuse to demand specifically from anyone with a diagnosis. So they use them in the United States to say a veteran with PTSD shouldn't have a gun because of potential for that veteran using that gun in a violent crime, despite statistics not backing up their worries, right? And so here's King Charles, including red and yellow flag laws in the throne speech yesterday.
To keep communities safe, the government will hire 1,000 more RCMP personnel. It will change firearms licensing and strengthen enforcement of yellow and red flag laws. Weapons licenses for those convicted of intimate partner violence and those subject to protection orders will be revoked. Through the deployment of scanners, drones, and helicopters, additional personnel and canine teams, the government will stem the tide of illegal guns and drugs across the border.
So I was worried that they were going to use the drones to seize the guns from the red flag people, but I guess that was a different branch of the same kind of thing, guns and fentanyl across the border. But the red flag laws, if you were convicted of partner crime or what was the other thing he said? A couple of things, and you have your license removed, and that's in the throne speech. So is this throne speech going to pass? If the throne speech passes, the confidence vote of the throne speech, will yellow and red flag laws be brought in through the back door or somehow? Seems very concerning. And there were a whole bunch of little bits like that. Tom is talking about, and I tried to queue up a couple of these pieces that they're talking about, but when I opened up another tab, YouTube tries to sync you with where you're watching. So if I was watching on like my phone or something like that, and then I come to my computer, it'll sync up. So what was happening is when I went and opened another video somewhere else, this one would change from the queue that I had it on. And I was like, well, how do I stick the queue? So I had a list of time indexes, but I just stopped because I was like, I'm just going to, you'll just have to find it because I apologize. I don't have the time this morning. I'm sorry. But Tom says, inspired by today's events and posted by Tom Quiggin. Today, I heard Canada's charter referred to as a list of constitutional privileges. That phrase should terrify every citizen in this country because a privilege is not a right. A privilege can be revoked. A right cannot. Let's stop pretending that this is just a semantic slip-up. It's not. It's the intentional erosion of legal and moral clarity in the minds of the public. It's psychological warfare. A privilege is something granted to you by authority, earned, conditional, and temporary. A right is something inherent, permanent, and invoidable. One can be taken away. The other must be violated. So a privilege can be removed, right? No TV tonight, Mark. But a right, my internal monologue, right? My belief system can only be violated. It can't be removed. They don't have the clout. They don't have the authority to remove that from me. Governments around the world, back to this, and Canada are no exception, they're starting to shift the public understanding of freedom. They no longer speak of inalienable rights. They speak of granted privilege, and too many citizens are letting them get away with it. We are no longer a free society. We are a post-right state. A post-right state is a nation that still pretends to honor its charter or constitution, but no longer treats those rights as foundational. Instead, it reclassifies them as privileges granted and revoked by government based on your obedience and alignment with state-approved opinions. It still has elections, it still has courts, it still has the appearance of democratic process, but none of it functions as intended. It's all managed through media, bureaucracy, and lawfare. Think of what's going on with Tamara Lich, Chris Barber, and I've got other examples of people, Pastor Smith, I think, who was arrested and then on house arrest and then rearrested for addressing his supporters on the stairs of the courthouse during his attendance at a court appearance, right? So wild stuff. And they threw him in jail, and they're going to just leave him in there for the rest of the year. This isn't just backsliding. This is a form of civilizational regression. Once we called ourselves a first world country, fully developed with rule of law, civil rights, independent courts, and democratic accountability. Now we freeze bank accounts without trial. We criminalize protest. We police speech. We rewrite history and redefine justice in real time. We call coercion consent. We call obedience unity. And now we call rights privileges. This is the language of controlled decline. The nation is not evolving. It is de-developing. We are not the developed world anymore, not in any meaningful sense. We are a neo-extractive state where the government serves its own interests by draining the citizenry, a post-competent nation where legacy institutions still exist but no longer perform, a managed democracy where choices are offered but none that matter, a post-right state where your charter is still printed on paper but no longer engraved in law. It is not the West. It's not that the West is collapsing into chaos. It's that we are being reorganized into something else. And if you don't start defending the language of freedom, if you let them replace rights with privileges, then you've already accepted your role as a subject, not a citizen. This isn't a slope we're slipping down. We've already fallen halfway off the cliff. The only question now is, will we climb back up or just get comfortable with the view on the way down? People are really enamored with the view and looking at their navel. Mark Nixon looks at the King's speech as well, and he says, King Charles delivers Mark Carney's campaign speech from the throne. Canada's biggest crisis since World War II, which is nonsense. Climate change is our number one threat. Yep, they talked about that because they're WEF. One economy, not 13. Manufactured homes to solve housing. Green tech will save everything. Canada is finished, but at least it's carbon neutral. Yeah, not really. Here's the other thing I was thinking about when I was watching King Charles struggle with opening this book is, what's the protocol on sitting like this? Could he put his leg up on his foot over his knee, right? Or would that break protocol? Because it kind of breaks the symmetry of the whole thing. If he put his leg up on his knee, the other guy might have to put his leg up on his knee, right? Could you do that? What happens if you do that? I would not be able to sit there, and I bounce my leg sometimes. Sometimes my son will come over and put his hand on my leg to say, stop bouncing your leg. But my dad did it, and I'm sure he's going to do it too. My son's going to do it. But it's one of those things. And I think that a lot of people do it because you just got energy and you're just moving around and stuff, right? And nobody's moving here. Everybody's very still. I'm sure there's protocol, etc. But I thought to myself, I don't think I'd be able to sit there this whole time. I'd have to I'd move around and laugh and stuff. I don't know. Aaron O'Toole, the end of the speech, King Charles says, the true North is indeed strong and free. And Aaron O'Toole says, well said. And Michael says, what freedom looks like. I keep the money I earn. I have choices without sustainability impeding my options. I have full bodily and medical autonomy. I have full rights over my firearms. I have full property rights without obstruction from government. I have full rights to free speech and assembly without limitation, full rights to protest the government. And yeah, we don't have that in Canada, right? Strong and free. What's your definition of free, sir? This is, John says, liberals finally manage a serious throne speech, John Ivison. And Shannon says, almost. And so these are the shoes. And there's dress pants, like this is a blue suit, dress pants. But the shoes are Converse. I think they're Converse. And somebody says, who is that? And Shannon says, 3 guesses. So who is that? That's Justin Trudeau, of course. Right? So obviously he's got to make a show of it. But I'm glad all we have to talk about is his feet. The NDP have responded to this, and he says there are rarely big surprises in a throne speech, says the NDP MP leader, current interim leader. Yes, there are some good things, he says. But where the problem lies is that the throne speech is far removed from the concerns of workers. So, trouble in NDP Liberal land. That's okay. The Bloc Québécois will support them. They say there's a lot of potential for supporting the Liberals because the Bloc can get a lot of concessions if the Liberals want support and not to drop the government. So that'll be interesting. Here is Pierre Poilievre. He's responding to the throne speech. He's talking about the problems with the lack of details in the throne speech. Here's his up and down kind of initial response. I'm starting at a minute in because I'm trying to get as much in as possible with regards to his response to the meat of it, because he takes about a minute to set up and start talking about the speech itself. Here we go.
Promises about getting things built, but no mention of oil and gas or pipelines. Pipelines are, of course, the thing we most need to build. Didn't get one mention. Nor did they mention getting rid of the anti-energy laws that have kept our resources in the ground. C-69, the no development law. C-48, the shipping ban. The energy cap. The electric vehicle mandate. All of these things were left out of the speech altogether. No specific plans to get anything done, even though, as the Prime Minister has said, we are in a crisis to break our dependence on the American economy. They mentioned crime, but refused to say that they would repeal the liberal catch and release bail law, C-75, or the house arrest law, laws that have allowed rampant chaos and crime to overtake our once tranquil streets. No mention of overcoming the opioid crisis and replacing tax-funded drugs and legalization with treatment and recovery. No mention of real plans to get taxes under control by reducing the cost of government. So we're here to turn the government's talking points into real plans. We pledge to work with the government to repeal the anti-energy law, C-69, repeal the energy cap, the electric vehicle mandate, the offshore shipping ban. Let's get our pipelines building. Let's get our goods to markets other than the United States. We're here to propose cuts to bureaucracy, consultants, foreign aid, and corporate welfare so that we can bring down taxes, debt, and inflation. Let's repeal the catch and release laws so that we can restore safety to our streets. Let's invest in treatment and recovery to bring our loved ones home drug-free. In other words, let's replace the talking points with real plans to get it done. That is what Conservatives pledge to do. That is what Canadians voted for us to fight for, and that is what we will deliver.
So we'll see, I guess. Fingers crossed. I'm not holding my breath too much. Mark Carney is talking about pipelines, and we'll get to that here, actually. Here, he's asked about pipelines. So Poilievre says, we'll build pipelines with you. As you said, you want to make us an energy superpower. We'll build pipelines. Here is the question, will you build pipelines? And the answer, here you go.
The line you said with some frequency during the election was, he wants to break us so he can own us. Do you still believe that's true?
I think the president, I won't look into.
That was the other one. Here's pipelines. It's like 4 minutes long. This one's the pipeline one. and here.
I know you've got to go, but I need to build on the project question. I need to ask you about Alberta, and I need to ask you about the oil and gas sector, because I know you said you want to create an energy superpower, clean and conventional energy. A pipeline is a possibility, but not a certainty. And Alberta would say one at minimum is what is needed, maybe three, to the north, to the east, and to the west. This is what the Premier has said. Is that a reasonable expectation for the Premier of Alberta? And the frustration over this, and you know as someone who grew up in Edmonton, it's driving a lot of the resentment to the national government of Alberta. So as Prime Minister, how do you confront that?
I think there's a couple of things. One is, let's recognize a few facts in terms of pipelines that have been built to Tidewater and projects opening up, whether it's TMX, whether it's Cedar LNG, and beyond. There's a series of LNG projects that more can be done, more should be done, and from our perspective, more will be done. So we will be moving through this process to make these types of projects possible. Now, we don't begin and end the conversation. It's remarkable in some circles. This conversation starts and ends with pipelines.
But that is what it's become politically, right?
No, it's not. No, that is not what it's become politically. That is not what it's become for Canada. Canada as a nation. Canadians want, yes, they want energy pipelines that make sense. They also want grid connections between our clean grids. They want actually less carbon. So they want carbon capture and storage pathways project to move forward. They want broader corridors, for example, Gray's Point in Nunavut, that open up whole swaths of the country to new trade. They want critical minerals so that we are sovereign in the most important components.
Did you see how he walked away from pipelines? Did you see how he pivoted away from pipelines? It's not pipelines. It's not pipelines. People want none of it opened up for trade and minerals and stuff. It's not about pipelines, he says. So that's pretty interesting is the wrong word. But in contrast to Poilievre, who lost the election, Mr. Carney is saying, oh, well, we don't need pipelines. Canadians want precious metals. Minerals and things like that. Sorry, I'll stop the buzzing as well. Here's Yves Francois Blanchette responding to the King's speech.
It is the most important initiative by a federal government towards centralization that I have seen or heard of. I do not believe it is ill-intended. I believe that Mr. Carney sees himself culturally as the CEO of Canada. And he will make decisions, and he will have his decisions being implemented by everybody. And he seems to see that Quebec and provinces are merely region offices. And I'm not mad at him now, and I intend not to be. It is the way it works where he comes from. This is not the way it works in this place, and it is not the way it works within this federation, as terrible as it might be for us. So my plan is to do what I promised to do during the campaign when we started going up again. We will meet next week. We will discuss in complete serenity, and we will try, I will try to find common grounds in order to work together, because the issue at the beginning of the campaign was the threat from Donald Trump. And in the speech, there's no such thing. It just vanished, disappeared. So we have to make it what it's supposed to be, adaptation for Quebec and Canada facing the threat from Mr. Trump.
And then at the end, he just, hold on, I'll just fast forward a bit to the end here.
Anything as possible that would have to go through committees will command negotiation with the Bloc Québécois. This is why I said that we have more influence with 22 MPs than we had with 33.
Okay, so he's saying we're in a configuration where we're the real balance of power. If he wants to make something happen, he's going to have to negotiate through us. So I don't know. They've got the NDP, and I would say that the NDP are in a fragile state and may be swayed to join the Liberals, and or something to that effect. I didn't see anything in the throne speech that would have the NDP going over, crossing the floor to the Liberals, but I don't know. Here's Kirk. He says the King Charles speech from the throne was one of the most embarrassing things I've ever seen. Reading from notes, Liberals government gave him. He does a land acknowledgement, climate change, and reads their election platform. They used the King of England and Canada as a performance monkey to spread their propaganda, and Canadians, as usual, are buying it and celebrating that the government knows that they are dumb. I don't know that they're celebrating they're dumb, but it's one of those things where there are so many people going through that hype train and like liking the pictures with their representative and the royal and all the rest of it. And it's like you're a hoarder and you've had some celebrity over to your house and like people are taking pictures of you and Tom Cruise, the celebrity, at your house, and you're like, that place is a mess. Like that place is an absolute mess. That's how obvious it is to me. But it seems like these guys are like, oh, who cares? Who cares about all the shambles that Canada is in? Like, look at my picture with the sovereign of our country. And it's, again, also Truth and Reconciliation Day. It doesn't make any sense to me. Here is a write-up of question period in Canadian Parliament, and it goes back to the early days. So apparently question period happened in 1867. And this is a good write-up if you're interested in the history of the whole thing. And even the modern history as well. So thank you for Matt, and he took the time to write it up. So cheers, sir. And it's interesting. I think Carney is abandoning a lot of the traditions that have been well established, because question period was for a long time not codified into any kind of like, we have to do this. It was something that just kind of happened organically. And then it became a part of, it was always a part of the government, I guess, and got more official as time went on. By 1949, oral questions and things like that were making formal recognition of question time as a distinct parliamentary procedure. So it's a tradition in our parliament that should be kept up. But in modern history, like, it was stopped, and I can't remember when it was stopped. And so it's one of those things where I think Carney is purposely walking us away from that very slowly in order to make it seem like we're not walking away from it. But then we realize we just stopped celebrating that thing and, let's do away with it, right? And so they're playing tricks on us in order to outlast us. And then when everybody just stops celebrating that thing, they won't even mention it. They'll just stop celebrating it and then, remove it quietly from the calendar, and the change won't even be noticed, right? And that's the goal, right? It's like in Indiana Jones, where he replaces the idol with the bag of rocks or whatever it is. Here's Mark Carney saying, Canada is Athens and the United States is Rome. Do you know your history? We'll teach you a little bit of history in just a minute. But here's Carney talking about Rome and Athens.
Mr. Speaker, I have much to learn from the members of this great House. I will make mistakes. I have no doubt that you will call them out for good reason. Because this House has rules. It has traditions. And it's on those traditions that our Athenian democracy is founded. Yes, we are Athens. They are Rome. On va triompher.
We will prevail.
And we will win. Weird, right? And here is Eric, and he says, question of the day, Mark Carney referred to Canada as Athens and the U.S. as Rome. Do you know, or do you think this is foreshadowing to Canada's future? For folks who don't know their history, Rome conquered and integrated Athens into the Roman Republic. So, great analogy, Mr. Carney. You come up with that on the fly? Here's Kevin, and again, foreshadowing. Is this something that Mark Carney knows that we don't yet? And Donald Trump says, I told Canada, which very much wants to be part of our fabulous Golden Dome system, that it will cost $61 billion if they remain a separate but unequal nation. But it will cost them $0 if they become our cherished 51st state. They are considering the offer. Athens and Rome, everybody. Athens and Rome. Rome's made us an offer we can't refuse. You want this dome or what? And or what? Yeah, we're good. Until, right, some unknown missile hits a city. And then all of a sudden it's very, very urgent, right? I don't know. The whole thing is, nope. Here is, do you still believe Trump, This is the one I already showed you, erroneously thinking it was the oil and gas one. But here's Mark Carney talking about, do you believe Trump is a big threat? And he just pivots, like he's not answering the question really. Here you go.
A line you said with some frequency during the election was, he wants to break us so he can own us. Do you still believe that's true?
I think the president, I won't look into his soul, but the president is recognizing, as others are, just how strong and free Canada is. And so if you look at the speech from the throne today, as you did, this is about investing in Canada. This is about building Canada, about making one Canadian economy out of 13. It's about nation-building projects. Each of those and those together give us much, much more than could ever be taken away by trade action. This is a confident country moving forward, and it's an exciting time.
A line you said with
I don't know about exciting. I mean, I don't know about exciting time. If we get a big tax cut and a First Amendment and a Second Amendment, sure, right? And throw in a free Starlink, right? I could be swayed, no problem. So it's very, very interesting. Athens and Rome and gun rights, Second Amendment, right? So is Donald Trump the biggest problem? Pivot to Canada's a super strong country. Don't worry about it. Huh. Very interesting. All this stuff is very interesting to me. Here is Holly Doan, and she says, hey, how come we don't have a budget? Can we have a budget, please? And Mark Carney says, my government has a mandate to bring down costs, cut taxes, and ensure Canadians keep more of their paychecks. Today, on the first day of this parliament, we got right to work. I don't really think so. And Holly Doan says, what is the deficit? No one knows. Yep, absolutely no one knows. Here's Franco Tetrazzino, and he's responding to the Financial Post. Financial Post opinion piece says, enough with the phony excuses. We need a federal budget ASAP. So who needs a federal budget? We've got a world-class, smartest guy in the room, banker, running the country. Who needs a budget? He doesn't need a budget. He's got the budget in his head, right? And we're supposed to be cool with that. Franco says, Ottawa is adding $4 billion to our national debt every month. It needs to stop making excuses and produce a budget. Why, when we're allowing it to add $4 billion a month to our debt? Like, why do they have to produce a budget? What kind of pressure can we put on the government? Are we going to stop letting them just print this money or what, right? And if we stop letting them print the money, do you know what's going to happen? Our entire economy will melt down. And they'll say, you caused us by not allowing us to make up more money. You caused this. And it's like, well, somebody spent us into this situation, actually. It's not our fault for demanding accountability. And I don't know, an emergency stop for the obvious theft that's going on. Anyway, Franco continues. He says, we were repeatedly told we were in the national crisis of our lifetimes. MPs and senators should not respond by going on another long vacation. Well, that's exactly what's going to happen. I haven't heard anything about censorship. Nothing explicitly about censorship, although they talked about security, and I feel like the security aspect is how they're going to backdoor it, but we'll see. Mark Nixon says, don't worry, Canadians, the economy is strong, wages are growing, housing is stable. Meanwhile, Ontario just broke the all-time record for mortgage delinquencies, highest rate in history. Record started in 2012, so that's not that long. We weren't tracking this before 2012? That's weird. Do we not have records of how many delinquencies there were in 2000? Like, we can't go back and look? Hey, RBC, can you pull up how many delinquencies you had? Nobody can look? We don't have the records? What happened? Oh my gosh. Anyway, highest rate in history. It's all fine. Nothing to see here. Here's the Toronto Star article. Ontario's record-setting mortgage delinquencies enormously concerning. I've heard that before. And do you know the only solution to that? Two things. Raise taxes and increase the number of people coming to the country. That'll solve it, right? Obviously, we can paper over this. Just bring in some people from anywhere. Anywhere, it doesn't matter. Oh, not South Africa. Mark says, while the government brags about bringing down childcare costs, food, housing, utilities, transportation, clothing, interest payments, all are soaring, the illusion of help is focused on one line item while the rest of your life gets torched. Sure, you can have $10 daycare, but the order-in pizza that you're ordering is $600. Yes, we're sorry about that. But don't you like your $10 daycare? It's so affordable. No cheese left. The illusion of help. Yeah, okay. This is political misdirection. Look over here. Your daycare bill is down. That's a few. You even get a space. That's if you even get a space. In most cities, it doesn't even exist. And don't look over there. Your mortgage, your groceries, your rent, and all the rest, right? And it's very, very interesting how people are. I think that people feel helpless, and I feel like they don't know what to do. And so either you just swallow it and deal with it, or you complain, but neither thing is really an ideal solution. Marty up north says, the thing I keep thinking about over and over today is, as I watch the circus in Ottawa, is that we pay thousands of clowns to do sweet F all for this country. 343 MPs, hundreds of senators, 1 governor general, 13 lieutenant governors, 5 ex-MPs, 9 Supreme Court justices, 3 ex-governor generals, hundreds of aides, experts and protocol translators, speechwriters. I want to puke every time I hear the reporters mention the word dignitaries. The theater was too much. Thousands of people sucking off the taxpayer. Teat playing dress up, sucking up to each other. I guarantee some of them laugh at us commoners. I have no doubt. But here's the hype train, right? Like, oh, look how fun this is. Yay, we're doing that. Oh, look, here's the VIP people from up above. And we're supposed to go along with this? How about we stop torching the economy of our country? How about that? Can we do that? Is there a chance we could do that at all? No. Here is, what are we at? 35. Oh my gosh. Holly Doan says, Treasury Board President accepted free flights from Muslim advocacy group Canadian MV. What is this? The Canadian Muslim, I don't know. It doesn't say the whole thing. Oh, the Canadian Muslim community. In traveling to Jerusalem to be photographed at prayer, according to ethics findings. This person said Israeli shelling of Gaza was a tragedy of the century. So it's very interesting. And Andy Lee's got more information. She says the Canadian Muslim Vote Association that funded this junket has no individual donors, according to CRA filings, despite what it says on its website. Its funding comes exclusively from other charities. Which ones? And have they received money from the taxpayers? Yes, they have. Yes, they have. And that's a shame that Naya's account's no more. Gone. Oh, well. They put together some great stuff. Ryan Garrettson said, Canada just confirmed it's joining Rearm Europe. Get ready for more of your hard-earned tax dollars to be shipped overseas. Carney's relationship with Europe will not benefit Canadians in any way. These individuals are mad with power. So here is, I think we've listened to this before, but Ursula von der Leyen is saying that they want to basically stand a European army. And it was going on in the UK. I certainly have news about this. Yeah, here it is. Veterans for Britain says a second EU-UK defense deal within weeks. And this is Rearm Britain that they're talking about before July 1st, okay? Unlike last week's sham, it will be legally binding, tied to the EU-UK trade. It will force the UK to make defense payments to Brussels and comply with EU foreign defense policy. Remarkable silence from UK media and government. Brexit is undone, right? The EU-UK bloc exists, and that's that. You're part of the EU, and you'll pay for it too, right? And it's incredible what's going on. So, man, we've got grab bag of governance. We're going to have to stop. I'm going to end the stream, and so thanks everybody for watching, and we'll catch you guys tomorrow. Hello everyone, thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful